All right, look, we have to get past this. This has just got to stop. I'm going to show you folks how to prevent your shows from being totally screwed up year over year if you follow these steps. If your computer busts and you need a new one, you're going to need to know this stuff. If you want to go from a Windows computer to a Mac or a Windows computer to another Windows computer, or you just want to change computers, you're going to want to know this. There's some things out there going on that we have to stop, and the Zoom room can't get to as many people as I can. So let's get into this right now. Well, hello everybody. Was that pretty intense? Was that sort of a intense opening? Well, I have to be a little bit passionate and I have to be a little bit stern about this because I just got back from a marathon vacation in Florida, and I'm back and it's time for Monday Minutes. Let's get into this. I'm telling you right now, if you follow along with this and watch this through its entirety, this is going to help you. There's a lot of people coming into the hobby and there's a lot of confusion out there. And I'm going to try to just break this down, the importance of the structure of your show directory and what it takes to move your show from one computer to another. It doesn't matter if something has broken on your computer or you just simply want to upgrade computers. If you follow some of these steps, you will ensure that your show goes on and on every year, year over year. If you don't follow some of these steps, you're going to end up in a world of hurt, potentially, where you have to start over. And that's not going to be a lot of fun for some people. If you have a very big show and you get this wrong, you may be glutton for punishment. So let's get into this. First, if we look at our show directory, I have one here called Get It or Get This Right 2023. That's the name of my show directory for this exercise. So let's say you're year 1, year 2, year 3, and this has been your folder, or every year you add a 2022, 2023, 2024. So let's look at the contents of this folder and talk about the importance of these things. So right now, you're going to see some basic folder structure here that's normal. Some of these items, and I've covered this in many tutorials, are natively or automatically placed in here based on you doing certain things, and others you may have to create. So let's talk about the ones that I create on purpose. One is always going to be perhaps a folder called house photo. That is where my photo of my house may be, so that if I continue living in the same house and I need to go to another computer, it'd be a really good idea to bring over the house if I want to see the house. The other one that's really important that you're not seeing in here, because this is a 2D layout, if this were a 3D layout, you would be looking for the OBJ folder or your 3D folder file. You want to make sure that you would bring that over as well. Okay? Next, something you haven't seen before, my package sequences. I want to help you ensure that you always have access to the latest work you have done with your sequences, so that if you do move to another show directory or your computer just craps out on you, you need to have this backup. It's so important. Do not rely on your backup files to save your butt in this hobby. It's like the next best thing, I guess, but I would highly suggest using packaged sequence files, and I'm going to show you how to set this up perfectly so it works for you each and every time. The audio, the backup, color curves, import media, palettes, render cache, shaders, value curves, videos, all of these files create themselves. You don't need to create those. These will all create themselves when you begin the importing process of sequences if you're going to be mapping. The other files, the FSEQs, sure, they're important for your existing show that year, but if you were going to copy this entire folder over to another computer, you're not going to need those. It's going to generate them again each time you save. Render and save, it will recreate the FSEQ file. The backups, it's okay to leave those in there. They're usually a small size. The XSQ, that's your sequence file, otherwise known as a .xml. It's got a wrapper so that we can get this cute little nutcracker on there. Your key bindings, if you custom create key bindings, great. If you don't, delete them. Don't delete them. They'll recreate themselves as well. If you have created your own key bindings, then definitely make sure you include them. I would just include them anyway. All right. The next one, network.xml. That's important. That defines the topology of your network, how you have it set up in xLights, your controllers, and all that good stuff. Very, very important. Second most important file in here. The first most important file, of course, is the RGB effects. This is the DNA of your show. This represents everything that is important. This, the networks file, and then, of course, all of your sequences, all of your assets, images, videos, shaders, music, perhaps. These things are very, very important. And sometimes what happens along your first year, you thought maybe it was cool to put images in one folder and music in another folder, and your D drive had all your shaders. For whatever reason, you have things all over the place. And in your process of learning xLights, you decided to create folders within folders and worlds within worlds, and to the point that you just didn't know where you existed on the timeline of a show in xLights. And it can be very, very frustrating because you can go down that rabbit hole and get yourself in so much trouble. So let's not do that. One show directory for your Christmas. I suggest one show directory for your Halloween or any other shows you may have. Keep them separate. You'll be glad you did. And that's just the way I roll, but I think this will help you not complicate matters. Okay, so I've shown you the folder structure. So let's get into a sequence that I have open here. And this is White Christmas. I have everything here. When you have a sequence and your layout done, I'm going to want you to do some things. I want you to make sure that you go to xLights or File, depending on which platform you're on, and go to your preferences. Okay. In your preferences, you have backup on launch, backup subfolders. These defaults should be left alone. Please put the backup directory in your show folder. Keep everything show folder based. You are going to be glad you did. Views, don't care. Effects, don't really care about this. Sequences, this is pretty important. Okay. Use show folder. Again, render cache directory, use show folder. Now, if you are pretty experienced and you know that you want your SSD drive to house all of your render files, great. I'm not really that concerned about render files when transferring them. In fact, if you have a ton of render files and you're going to be going from one computer to the other, don't bring the render files with you. xLights will generate them again. You can delete them. They keep coming back. Okay? The other thing, save FSEQ file on save. Yes. Again, use the show folder. If you're new, keep everything pointed at the show folder, please. Okay, let's keep going. Output, don't care. Check sequences, don't care. Random effects, I certainly don't care about that. Colors, don't care about that. But this one's important. I sell sequences, so I make sure I exclude xLights from including that in a package sequence. So when I package the sequence, no, music. You have to provide music because that's copyright law, right? So, but what I want you to do, if you're not a sequence seller and you're doing things for yourself, turn off the exclude audio. I want you to be able to include audio for what I'm going to show you in just a moment. Exclude presets, I would probably turn that off too. If you do a lot of presets for yourself, let's make sure that if you have to take your world and transfer it to another computer, that you get all your beautiful presets, okay? Very, very, very important. The rest of this, I don't care about. Now, if this is not currently disabled on either of these two, disable both of these, restart xLights because it may not click. So just know these two things, my advice is restart xLights once you deselect both of these. Beautiful. Now we have our sequence. You're going to render it. Yes, beautiful. The second thing I want you to do when you have that perfect sequence with the perfect layout, you're going to click on Tools. You're going to click on Clean Up File Location. This is going to force all of your images, videos, shaders, and music to go into the main show directory into specific folders called images, videos, audio, shaders. This is what you want. So you click on this, and it takes about 1.5 seconds. It's really fast. No fuss, no muss. Okay, then you're going to save your sequence. You save your sequence. What's that do? That overwrites the FSEQ file. But we're not done. When you have your sequence absolutely done, you're not adding anything else, you're happy with it, right? You're on your one computer, maybe you're on your new computer. I want you to click on Tools. I want you to click on Package Sequence. By the way, this is how I coach people when I'm trying to troubleshoot issues they may be having with a sequence. They package the sequence. You click on Package Sequence, it's going to ask you, great, where do you want to save this? This is White Christmas. Well, remember that folder I created called My Package Sequences? Maybe you'll have inside of there different names like different vendors so that you can put those package sequences in there and keep them organized. That's completely up to you. But I'm going to save this. I'm going to override. It's going to go, hey, man, you already have this. Replace it? Yes, replace it, replace it, replace it, replace it. Great. So now what I have in my main show directory in this My Package Sequences folder is a file called whitechristmas.zip. What do you think's in there? Well, let's take a look. I'm just going to double click on this and I'm going to show you inside of this, this folder is the same as this folder over here. Why is that important? Well, because if you were to move to another computer or you lost files entirely, this file can save your butt. Now, is this a file, this zip file, is this something I would leave on this existing computer? Probably not. I'd probably make a copy of these zip files and put them somewhere safe so that I know I never lose them. Maybe an attached storage device, another zip file, a USB key, whatever it might be. Now, keep in mind, these files could get pretty big. This is already 19.6 megabytes for one sequence. Inside of this file is your sequence, the layout and the network topology, along with videos. And if there were images, you would see an images folder. There are no images in this. But here's my video that's in there. Here's the audio that you'll need for this. So this contains everything you need. A backup folder may not have everything you need. So again, do not rely on that. This is another fail-safe that I just wish everybody would start doing, so that when the inevitable happens, something happens to your computer, it's stolen, whatever the case is, or it's time to move to another one, you're going to have files that you really need to get back where you were. Okay? So there we go. So let's break this down and start with a brand new one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the same process. Before I go through the process, one other thing I want to mention in the layout, and I'm going to be a stickler about this. When you have the names of your models and groups, do not change them. Let me say that again. When you have the names and models defined by the names, groups, submodels, any of that, do not change the names. You are going to get yourself in trouble. xLights, when you go to your new computer and you open up that sequence and it starts popping up all these errors like, what is Susie's Windows? What is Kevin's? I don't recognize this. Oh, by the way, where's all the artwork for this song? I don't recognize, where are the images? Where are the videos? Where are the shaders? And it's like looking for all these different places that doesn't exist on your new computer. Now you're going to start over, perhaps, right? So let's not get ourselves in that pickle. Leave these names alone once you've established them, especially if it's your first year that you had a great year and you've got 10 to 20 sequences, and then suddenly year two you're thinking, what if I change the name of all my groups to be more intuitive? No, don't do that, please. You're asking for trouble. All right, so we've left the names alone. Let's do a brand new sequence. So I'm just going to open up a music sequence. I'm going to drag this from the desktop somewhere. I know I have music on there. Love Tonight. So I'm going to do 40 frames. Great. My sequence view, which I always like to use. There we are. What's the first thing you do when you are mapping in a sequence? Yes, that's right. Save it. And I'm going to call this Love Tonight. Boom. And it's going to go in Get It Right 2023, my show directory. That's where I'm saving it. Now I have the music. Now I'm ready to import a zip file. Do not import from a previous file that's unzipped with images, videos, and shaders. Let me say that again. Do not import from a folder that has images, videos, and shaders that's not a zip file. You're going to get in trouble, okay? So I'm going to click on the desktop where I have a zip folder called Love Tonight. I'm going to click open. It is going to unpackage in the background, thanks to David Preem. And here we have all of our timings. And now I can click on Automap. We'll see how much comes over, and then we'll fill in the rest. All pixels, everything looks good. Did it bring everything, all pixels, groups, and groups? I don't know what I was doing with that exercise, but apparently it was something. Models on, you know what? I'm just going to put them there for this exercise. Arches, I'm going to do my arches, triples. I don't think I have any canes in this, and that's pretty much going to be it, except for my verts. Need my verts. And so I'm going to go down here and go find my house verts all. Megastar, which is my tree topper. Matrix, that all looks good. Checking my groups here, nothing individual. Rosa Grande, King, Diamonds, done, and looks good. So something else you can do that probably is a good habit to get into, you might want to save this mapping file. So if I save this mapping file and I put this in that same directory where I keep everything, which is going to be, get this done right, I don't have a folder to put this. I could just throw it anywhere, I guess, but if you want to organize it, you can just create a new folder and just call this mapping files and then give this a name. I like to call it the name of the song, Love Tonight. And then I'm going to save that. This could be very useful for people that are now having to start over and remap everything, because you map one song and you've saved these mappings because the names may not line up, and that's the way it is. I don't expect everyone to call their tree topper. You may call it Megastar. But when you map your second song, you'll click load mappings, and you'll bring in this one. It'll bring everything that it recognizes. Then you can continue to add more. Then you save that mapping file. And in your mind, you're going to make a note. You know what? I know this one sequence has a ton of stuff going on. It's my best choice for a master mapping file. And maybe that's what you use from here on out to finish mapping everything else in. When you're done with that, all we have to do is click OK. We have now just mapped this over. It's in my sequence view. Don't worry, all the timings are there. They're just sitting there in the master view. No big deal. You don't have to pull them over unless you want to pull them over. So I've got this. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to render the sequence. Okay. So you want to render it. And of course, you may be making changes. You may be doing some other mapping things, and that's totally okay. But just know when you're finished rendering it, this next step is really, really important. Okay. Now, do we have to do this next step? I'm going to prove that maybe, maybe not, but I want you to get in the habit of doing this, because you're not hurting anything by overriding the files when you click on Tools, Clean Up File Locations. Let's go look over here. Let's go look in the folder. Let's see if we have the music, the images, video, shaders, whatever might be in there. So if I click on my audio, I have White Christmas. I do not have the music. Okay. If I click on shaders, I still, well, it looks like there are a few more in there, so it looks like I picked those up. If I go to my imported media, well, now we have White Christmas. Okay, so now we have another folder besides White Christmas. Now we have one that's called Love Tonight, and it has video content in there. Okay, so that's good. Still, it doesn't look like we have any images in either of these two sequences, or it will have created that folder. But I don't see my audio in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my tools. I'm going to click on Clean Up File Locations. Watch what happens. That fast. And now I'm going to go back to my folder, My World, and get this right, 2023. Now when I click on audio, what do I have? I have 2 songs in there now. 2 songs. I want 2 songs. I want to make sure if I ever transfer this world to another computer, I've got all my music. I got all my images, all my videos, all my shaders, the topology, my network, everything. This is so important. You've got to get this right. This is the foundation of xLights whenever you consider moving your world somewhere else. Okay. So I'm very, very happy with that. Then what do I do? Well, at this point, I can just, I can save it. I mean, that's probably appropriate. And voila, we are done. Now, next year, you realize you need a different computer. Where are you going to move to that computer? Where are you going to move that computer? This folder. With the exception of cleaning up some baggage, depending on how big your show is and how many sequences you have, you may want to go in here, and you may want to just do this. Right-click on your render cache and click, just delete it. Will it let me delete it? Move to trash. I'm in a Windows brain of thought right now. So, good. I just took away a ton of file space. You may also consider going into your backup folders and figuring out, well, today's where I did most of my stuff. I didn't really need anything from 23rd on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to move these to the trash or delete, because I don't need that much file space in my transfer as long as I've got a good backup that I recognize and know where I made changes. The only exception to this is if you feel like there's something you did so far back that is so important to your show in the future, you don't delete it. If you have something like that, then I suggest going here and making a copy of that and putting that somewhere else as well. All right? You will never lose anything in xLights unless you purposely delete it. You will never lose any. xLights does not have the ability just to make stuff vanish. It just doesn't. Unless you delete something, chances are it's not really gone. It's probably lost. And it's probably attributed to some disorganization. This hobby takes a lot of time and effort to get used to, and some of us don't spend 369 days a year. Yeah, I added a few days. But for those of you that are seasonal and get into this and forget things very easily, please refer back to this video. Let people know there is a better way to organize your show world. I hope this has been helpful. It's been Monday Minutes. See ya.